quickly come into a corridor where you have like 3 different ways, and each of those ways you see one player. So you can quickly like swipe the gun and take all those 3. With 1 shot per second, you have to like stop your movement or kind of bait out the players or something else. So that kind of skill was also nice to have, and especially when you were young, good reflexes, and maybe you were drinking your extra coffee or taking your extra energy drink in before the finals, you had like ultra reflexes, and that's also a nice feeling.
Yeah, it is. We're getting too old for this already.
yeah. Okay, but generally, I think we could take Matisse in from the Skype chat if Matti is hearing us, and giving some of the comments. Like, I would like to hear from you that how well you think the French teams are gonna place against the European and Australasian and American teams in the final rankings, and for what reasons?
Well, hello everyone. I think that the French teams, well, obviously have the advantage for playing a long time on this French format, which will obviously create maybe a more experienced gameplay on the side of the French teams. Some players are playing this format for more than 6 or 7 years, maybe. So I think this will give a real advantage. Also to be taken into account the 3 shots per second, like you talked about. However, I think that the international teams can have the skills to quickly catch up the difference between the French and the other teams, the difference of levels acquired due to experience. I think international teams can quickly catch them up.
Okay, that sounds positive. I wasn't maybe expecting like this kind of prediction, but yeah, it's actually cool to see. But we also respect like both like maybe many of your teams, or if not even all the teams, have practiced on that arena or maybe played a tournament or something. So maybe in the beginning of the tournament, so that can cause a bit of advantage. Not even to talk about like understanding and being able to predict how the 3 shots per second game is gonna roll.
Yeah, sorry. I would say that it's gonna be challenge to climb the ladder for all the European teams outside France, because I think the French teams are gonna have a huge advantage in the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah.
And then it is, as you talked about, it's a lot like how well we can adapt, how well we can learn, how fast. But I expect that this is the event where the French, the home side especially, can shine in this event mostly.
Yeah, Matthias?
Well, we are hoping to shine, and obviously it's one of the side events that we're the more looking forward to. Even if we still have this feeling of advantage compared to the non-French teams who are not trained to this format, the French teams will still give 100% of their potential, because they know that any team can be feared, and especially if as French players we basically got the mechanics of the gameplay that we play on, and however, I think they're more quickly acquired than in team elimination or in team competition. So I think it's still possible for non-French teams to quickly catch up. Obviously, it will not be simple. The teams outside France will have to shine a lot and be very good in learning quickly the gameplay. However, I think you can quickly understand the gameplay and quickly adapt to it. Maybe it's a bit more intense, and there is less plays with the walls. However, I think duel is a major part of it, so it can quickly be adapted by international players who are strong on those points.
Okay. By duel, do you mean a duel with a wall between? So the players try to quickly find one wall between them and the other player, or do you really mean like open area duels are important?
Well, it's actually common in France to have open duels with few walls, since the fact that the time reactivation is shorter and there's no points lost on getting hit by another player. Often the attackants obviously just step outside of the base zone and try a bit like to spam into the base zone.
Yeah.
So I think it's more often an open duel. However, there's some more defensive positions that require having to play with a wall. So it also depends on which type of defender you are. If you're more adapted to playing with walls, or if you handle well duels. So there's a bit of everything. However, for the attackants, it's a major part of a frontal duel without walls.
Yeah, I would have a quick question regarding this a little bit, but how do you see Belfort Arena, especially the bases? Are they typical French style bases, or how do you see it? Is it a different arena for you completely compared to other French sites?
Last time we went to train to Belfort, we had the chance to play French formats over there. So we could discover those new base zones. In my opinion, they're a bit smaller than in French tournaments. However, the idea of the gameplay won't be impact that much. Maybe more the intensity of it, making it a bit faster, maybe to make bases. However, I think it still coincides pretty well with the main French tournaments. It's pretty accurate gameplay.
Okay, from your kind of first first comments, it sounded like if I try to compare like team play versus individual play. So we're actually gonna talk this more thoroughly later on, but this sounded like the individual skill can be of much significance if you have a really strong individual in this game. Is it right?
A strong individual can impact a game a lot. I think someone who is really good can really create a difference by opening to the other attackants quite easily with the 3 shots per second. However, the fact that there's a limit of paces per player, just as in team competition, I think it's also important to have team play and to have players who are used to play together. In France, we use often more duos rather than solo players. Some duos in France are really well known for working well together, and it's really important to have a strong duo rather than a strong solo player, in my opinion.
I'm laughing because this sounds exactly like GP, or to me, like strong duos.
Yeah, that's true. That's how we started playing, and we built our team a lot about like duos, and then making the duos work together as a complete team. But it started with duos mostly.
Yeah, and you can really tell that. Like sometimes meeting a GP player alone is like meeting sometimes like any strong player. But of course, sometimes it's another story. But meeting one of your duos with your own duo feels like burning in lava sometimes. So to play against you, the duos for me are always the scary part. Like,
yeah, I think that's the strength in our team also, the team play and being able to know a lot how the other player team like plays in the team and react to that already. Like,
luckily, I can try to be a part of one duo now with you guys in this format. Actually, for the stream viewers, what Matthias referred to, so in this format there are no pack points at all. So when you shoot vests, that doesn't matter in terms of points, so only bases are counted. And there is a limitation that one player can tag or can destroy the bases 3 times, and then it's over for that player. and each of the players in the team can destroy the base 3 times. So with 4 players, that's 12 bases. But it's also like the defenders can communicate and try to keep a track on. So Henk already has 3 bases, so we don't have to care about him so much entering the base. But somebody else doesn't, so you can kind of point that player out. And how do you think, Matthias, about the communication and French teams? So are you almost like excellent, no mistakes almost with this communication, or is there still room for improvement?
I think maybe communication on French format will be a strength for the French teams. As I saw during my trainings for the Worlds, I realized that there was maybe less talking during a team elimination. Well, in my opinion, in France, since there's a 3-second reactivation, there's no space for miscommunication. In 4 seconds, the base can be done, so it's probably much more quicker than in a team elimination and team competition. Sorry, and due to that, French teams are really trained to have high standards on communication. One error of communication can quickly cost a base, so it's well, there's always problem of communications, but it's a point that we hope to have a real strength on, and I think the French teams have majorly acquired that during the French tournaments along their laser career, we could say.
Okay, you are obviously part of the French laser community, so I would like to hear a bit behind the scenes, like what is the general attitude towards Worlds, like what are people talking about the Worlds, are players excited about the Worlds, and these kind of things?
The French players are really motivated. They can't wait actually to see new gameplay, see new players. It's I think there's this real excitement, like you said, about discovering something new. France will do its first time in this World Championship, so obviously it's quite hard for us to predict how we could place ourselves in terms of skill and level. However, the motivation is always present, and I think everyone really wants to attend to those to Belfort and to meet new players and new styles of play. And all I could see when we were training was smiles and people can't waiting for the start of the tournament. So
that sounds perfect, man. There is a lot of YouTube content existing from the kind of Nordic teams, from the US teams, and LOR films. So have you guys watched any of the gameplay, and how have you kind of liked or evaluated that?
Yeah, well, we have watched some of the gameplay. It actually started a bit before the Worlds, when players like Cooper, who is a French player that went to Australia or New Zealand, I can't really remember. I think it's Australia. And Shirley started sharing videos of international players and videos that we weren't aware existed. And since that moment, I actually kept track a bit of those YouTube videos, and I think some French players are more and more likely to watch them due to the Worlds happening in France. And I have watched some videos with some friends, and that allowed us also to train in a better way, because that first time we were a bit lost since we didn't know what was the major gameplay and what were the common tactics. So I think they were quite useful, yeah, to see them on YouTube.
Okay, now we put a bit of pressure to you, and now you have to make a prediction. How do you think the French teams will place compared to the international teams?
Well, obviously the French teams, in my opinion, will have a lot of difficulties to match up with the other international teams. I mean, in my opinion, the French teams are far from getting a podium. However, I'm hoping that some French teams will manage to create a surprise and maybe